Everyone, welcome back to the shop. Today we're going to go over the new shop acquisition, this big bad Cincinnati heavy duty Shaper. My kids think this thing's the speeder from Star Wars, but it's actually from 1968. In this video, we're going to be checking out how this baby works, the inside of the machine, how this thing operates. We're going to cut some pieces of material so I can show you how the operation and what this tool is used for in the shop. Let's get to it. I'm 6 feet tall. Man, look how long the ram is. 11,000 pounds, 10 feet long, 4 feet wide. This baby's a beast. I think this is the heaviest piece of equipment I have in the shop. So you're probably asking yourself, what is a Shaper? Well, you can make anything on a Shaper except for money, right? Which is kind of funny. Basically, the long story short is this ram moves back and forth, making a stroke. It's very large, and they take up a lot of room, and you only have this much working space. And the work is clamped in the vise, and it uses high-speed tool bits that you could use in the lathe. These are basically the tools. These are just tool bits, and you can grind whatever you want into the profile, and you can cut away with it. These machines aren't common for production anymore. They've kind of been replaced by CNC machines. Vertical mills and big milling machines can do what this does, maybe quicker. But there's some applications where this machine is still the best solution for internal keyways. You can make, you can make anything on this machine. Might just take you a little bit longer. That's why this machine is important to me, because it's just plain fun. Let's just say we wanted to cut this slot and this part. We'd start by just putting it in the vise. This vise is giant. I don't know, here's my arm, so I don't have a tape measure, but I think that's 16 inches long or wide and about 3 inches tall. It has an independent jaw that you can clamp at an angle, which is kind of fun. Kind of like a universal vise, and twin jack screws. So this thing is kind of awkward. I'm still kind of getting used to it, but look at the wrench. Look at the wrench to tighten this thing. I mean, this thing is a serious wrench, and believe me, you need to put the torque on this thing. This is a tool holder to hold a piece of high-speed steel. This is known as the clapper box. We'll get into what the clapper box does here in a second. Something like that. Okay. And this tool holder, we can position this high-speed. This is the high-speed tool bit. We can grind any profile into this we want. And this actually is what does the cutting, and this is very similar to what you'd be able to grind in on a lathe. And the Shaper bit just comes right inside there, and you can position it at any height. And you can also adjust the tool head up and down for whatever, to position your work accurately. And then you also have a dial to where if you want to feed down manually into your work, you can do that too. They want the clapper box to be tilted like that, so that when it comes back, it's actually swooping up out of the way. So let's take a closer look on how the vise works. You have, I call this kind of like the pusher block, and this is the movable jaw. They have these grooves in the vise. I guess this was an option. You could just choose a normal vise with one screw, or this one. This thing has so much power, it's incredible. You jump this back to where you want. Then you slide this back. It can't be here halfway because there's a little shoulder here. It has to come and sit just like that into the groove. So it's a little bit slower. I'm still kind of trying to get used to it. And then of course this can turn like that. Maybe not quite that much. We'll give you a little angle if you have something that's tapered. Kind of interesting. This vise is, I think, 20 inches long. You can put a 20-inch long part into here, which is just amazing. It has a scale on the side. You can swivel it. So we can tilt the vise at any angle we want, up to 15 degrees to tilt the table. And then now we can actually tilt the table going the other axes. We can do that now too. I've never had this off before. Holy smokes! Wreck yourself. There's a graduated scale on the side of this thing that looks like I need to take some Scotch-Brite to and clean it up. But as you can see, we can just crank this. around. Right? So then you can clamp something in the vise at a weird funky angle over here, position it over and cut it. It's pretty interesting what you can do with this. So, or put something, just turn it over so you don't have to take the vise off. Just physically flip it over and mount something right here onto the table if you want it perfectly flat. So it has some serious versatility to it, which is pretty special. One thing that this machine is missing that I wish it had is a automatic down feed for the head right here. I know this was an option. I'm currently searching for one, so if anybody knows where I can find one, use one off a scrap machine, I would greatly appreciate it. I'd love for you to contact me if you know where I can locate one of these. There's also a mechanism that lifts the clapper automatically on every stroke. I'm after the tool lifter because in the future I might want to run some carbide tooling, and the carbide, when it drags on the backstroke, it has the potential to chip, so the tool lifter prevents that from happening. So let's get into the nuts and bolts. The first thing we can do is we can choose how much movement we want this ram to travel. And we have a dial right here from 0 to 36. So just by turning this lever on the side right here, I can physically see the motion 26, 28. So that's the first thing, is wherever you're working in. So let's just take this part for example. This is really short, so I'm only going to be wanting to run like a short stroke, like 2 or 3 inches long. Then you can come over here and choose the speed and feeds. Basically the speed of how fast this ram goes in strokes per minute. And Cincinnati has equipped this thing with this really cool scale on the body here that tells you what you should be cutting at. Between 75 and 100 is the theoretical best feed rate. So if you're doing a 10-inch stroke, how many strokes does it take to get to that 75 or 100? And they suggest between 50 strokes per minute will get you that correct surface speed. This has a 2-stage gearbox, so for high gear you pull up, and for low gear you push down, and then you slide it over to the selected strokes you want to turn. This has a high-low gearbox, and it's selected by an A or B on the switch. This particular machine is powered by 10 horsepower. I know in the manual it said there was a 15 as an option, but this one's a 10 horsepower. I'm running it on 480 volts here in the shop, and it's just a push button start and we get her going. In the manual it says that we need to let the hydraulics and the fluid flow through the machine, so they suggest putting the shifter into neutral and physically activating the electric clutch and physically waiting till the pressure comes up on the dial and letting it run for 3 to 4 minutes until all the oil gets circulated around. This control right here is for the left and right traverse of the table, and we can go left or right, and we got power feed. We go back. Okay, or we can switch the handle and operate it manually. Every rotation is a 1/2 of an inch. So every crank of the handle, that's a 1/2 of an inch. This lever on the back here, it's the same thing, up or down on the table. We go down. And then you can operate this one manually also. It's pretty sweet. This is 11 strokes per minute, low gear at 13 inches. So like I said before, you see where it's stroking now? We got about 4 inches of stick out. You turn this lever, you can see it sucking back in. So now when you turn it on, See, now it's stroking in a different location. Let's go around to the back side and we'll see how this thing works. So let's pop the cover open. But in the meantime, while I'm doing this, it's a good time to talk about where the machine came from and how I acquired it. I was talking to my buddy Adam Booth from Booth Machine Shop, aka A-Bomb 79, and mentioned to him that I was looking for a small shaper just for odds and ends around here in the shop and just to have another fun tool around here. And he happened to say, hey, I know where there's a shaper for sale. And knowing Adam, everything's large and in charge right up on my avenue. And he goes, there's one on Machinist Buy Sell Trade. It's come from Alabama Power. I contacted the owner of the machine and made a deal. Adam lined me up with Fred to get the machine up here, and Fred graciously made the long haul for the machine, brought it to me, and we unloaded it, and here it sits. So it's kind of fun. Came from Alabama Power, and from what I can tell is they're really the only owner. So as you can see, there's this big giant wheel inside here. And what powers that wheel is the transmission, and there's a little pinion gear. It's about this big, and that's what controls how fast this wheel turns. So the faster this wheel's turning, the faster the ram will turn, and that's what those levers are for the speed control. Okay. Then this has the crank pin is right here, and this by changing where this crank pin is, you see this adjustment rod over here, that's telling it how far you want it to stroke. Okay, and we'll make some changes. And so this has hydraulic oil, and it just splashes over everything, and then it gets trapped down here in the bottom and gets pumped all over. So it's hydraulic oil, and hydraulic oil lubes the ways, and it's the lifeblood of the machine. So let's turn it on. It's stroking at 8 inches right now. And then we'll switch it to the longest stroke, 36, and we'll show you what happens to the crank pin. Okay, I'm going to switch it to the maximum stroke of 36, and we'll see what this looks like, and you should be able to see the crank pin move. All right, enough of this jibber jabber stuff. Let's slice something up. Let's see if I can dig some scrap up so we can make some cuts just to see how she does. Let's put this piece of, what is this? 3.5 by 1.5 by 17 inches long. That gives you a perspective of how big everything is in the vise, and we'll we'll just reduce the thickness a little bit and see what, let's make some chips fall on the floor. Stay. Man, let's see where that looks. We're not going to hit anything. And let's go. So we know we're at a 19 or 20 inch stroke. 20-inch stroke. So we're looking at 17 to 23. Let's choose 17. All right, let's raise the table up here. Let's just try it out. We'll just start there and see where it takes us. Okay, we're touched off. So you can see every stroke, it's advancing 0.010 of an inch. It's 30,000th step over. Let's try a 1-inch tool bit. So this is 17 strokes a minute at 0.010 feed rate. Okay, that's 11th, 16th depth of cut, so just under 3/4 of an inch. That's 20,000th step over, no problem. That's 20,000th depth of cut. Woo! They got some weight to them. Big whoppers. Pretty cool. I like the sound. I better pick these chips up before I stub my toe on them. Stand on it. They can't even crush it. That's funny. Thank you guys for sharing your time with me and allowing me to show you the Shaper. I know I have so much fun operating this thing, even though there's probably bigger, better tools than this for doing the same job in operations, but this machine just puts a smile on my face every time I use it. There's just something about grinding your own tools and watching it cut. It's very satisfying and rewarding. So I'll leave you with that. I look forward to sharing this machine with you on more future projects and builds here in the shop. Please like and subscribe if you aren't already. I know it really helps me and the channel grow, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.